The towers of Wang Court did not burn the way buildings usually burn. They burned like vertical furnaces, flames racing up 31 stories in minutes, turning an ordinary renovation site into Hong Kong's deadliest fire in more than 60 years. At the time of recording this video, the confirmed death toll has reached 83 people. At least 76 are injured, including 11 firefighters, and more than 270 residents remain missing. 7 towers burned for nearly 30 hours, and even after sunrise, the buildings still glowed with pockets of heat and smoke. This tragedy is personal for me. Hong Kong is my second home. I lived there for many years. A close friend of mine used to live in this exact building. I know people who still live in Tai Po. Even from a distance, this one hits hard. But this is not a video about blame or speculation. Information is still evolving. We have to speak carefully and responsibly about what is confirmed. So let's begin with how the fire started and why it spread the way it did. Wang Court was in the middle of a massive renovation, a 330 million Hong Kong dollar project covering 8 towers and almost 2,000 homes. The estate was wrapped in bamboo scaffolding, green plastic netting, waterproof canvas, and foam ceiling around windows. Around midday, smoke appeared on the exterior of Wang House, the first tower to ignite. Firefighters arrived within 5 minutes, but by then flames had already climbed multiple floors. Eyewitnesses described it as unbelievable. The scaffolding erupted like a ladder of fire. Wind pressure turned the exterior into a vertical chimney. Melting netting dripped flaming plastic onto lower floors. And because 7 towers were wrapped at the same time, the fire jumped across buildings like a chain reaction. By nightfall, more than 700 firefighters were deployed. Over 900 residents were evacuated, and the skyline above Tai Po looked like a burning row of dominoes. To understand how this could happen, we have to look at the materials wrapped around these buildings. Bamboo scaffolding is part of Hong Kong's visual identity, but it's also flammable. And in this renovation, bamboo was combined with plastic sheeting, non-fireproof netting, flammable foam, years of dust, and old paint. According to Hong Kong police and fire services, 3 men from the scaffolding contractor have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. Preliminary inspections suggest some protective materials may not have met fire safety standards. But again, we must wait for the official investigation before drawing conclusions. What we do know is this. 1. Bamboo burns vertically, fast. The fire raced up the exterior in minutes. 2. Plastic netting melts and spreads flames. 3. Foam-sealed windows created deadly smoke traps. 4. Multiple buildings were wrapped at the same time, reducing fire breaks. One fire expert described the scene as a 3-dimensional combustion chamber. This was not a typical fire. It was a structural failure layered on top of a renovation site. The worst possible combination. But residents saw warning signs even before the fire broke out. To understand the deeper context, we need to go back 1 year. June 2024. Residents were suddenly told to pay for a 330 million Hong Kong dollar renovation. Cost per household, 150,000 to 190,000 Hong Kong dollars. July 2024. More than 5% of residents signed a petition demanding transparency. September 2024. They voted out the old management. What the new committee uncovered, the chosen plan was the most expensive of the 3 proposals. Cost difference, over 150 million Hong Kong dollars. Invoices filled with vague charges, material choices unclear, oversight weak, no transparency. Then renovation began, and the problems came instantly. Workers smoking on scaffolding, non-fireproof netting allegedly used, scaffolding netting stacked carelessly, poor workmanship, windows sealed shut with foam. Residents complained repeatedly, little changed. And then came the final warning, a level 3 fire at another building in October 2024, also involving scaffolding. Only after that did authorities issue a late safety notice demanding all buildings verify their netting was fire-resistant. But the Wang Court materials stayed in place, and 1 year later, the fire spread exactly the way residents feared. Now let's enter the buildings and see what residents actually experienced. Residents describe a terrifying pattern. Fire alarms were silent. Emergency systems failed. Stairwells filled with smoke before alerts sounded. One 80-year-old survivor said, "If I was sleeping, I would be dead." Families crawled through pitch-black hallways, unable to see the ground. Heat was so intense that firefighters were pushed back. Many windows were sealed with foam, leaving residents trapped with smoke. Inside, people collapsed near their doors. Some never made it out. Yet there were moments of hope. A survivor rescued from the 16th floor. A couple saved after staying low to the ground for hours. Firefighters carrying elderly residents down 20-plus floors. Neighbors guiding each other through smoke-filled stairwells. Firefighters saved 55 people despite impossible conditions. At the temple near the estate, exhausted firefighters slept on the ground. Volunteers brought food, blankets, warm drinks. This was Hong Kong at its most vulnerable and its most human. The failures inside these towers weren't random. They reflected deeper weaknesses across the system. We can't jump to conclusions, but the emerging picture shows several systemic failures. 1. Oversight failures in renovation materials. Authorities are now inspecting scaffolding across all of Hong Kong. 2. Fire break collapse. Multiple towers wrapped at once effectively connected buildings. 3. Foam-sealed windows created smoke traps. 4. Fire alarm system performance. Residents widely report silence or delays. 5. Late regulatory action warnings. In 2024 were not enforced quickly enough. 6. Aging public housing infrastructure. Many estates require urgent upgrades. Again, this is still under investigation, and we must respect that process. But the overall system clearly had vulnerabilities long before the fire. Now let's look at how Hong Kong responded. Hong Kong moved fast. Shelters. 9 evacuation shelters opened immediately. Support. 1 social worker per household was assigned. A rare and significant move. Emergency cash. Each affected family receives 10,000 Hong Kong dollars immediately. Aid fund. A 300 million Hong Kong dollars assistance fund was established within hours. Temporary housing. The government secured nearly 1,000 spaces in hotels and youth hostels for short-term stays. Another 1,800 units will be used for medium-term rehousing. Healthcare. 250-plus private doctors and medical professionals volunteered at shelters. Burn and respiratory supplies were distributed citywide. Firefighting technology. Hong Kong requested drones and equipment from Shenzhen to scan hotspots and assist firefighters climbing through collapsed areas. Investigations. 3 task forces were formed to oversee regulation, emergency support, and housing. Public mourning. Government celebrations were cancelled. Election operations paused, and officials switched their profile photos to black and white. And across Hong Kong, restaurants brought food to shelters, citizens delivered supplies to firefighters, pharmacies donated medical essentials, volunteers formed queues to help Hong Kongers, showed what solidarity looks like. But beneath the grief, this tragedy revealed something about the city itself. Hong Kong is one of the densest cities on Earth. And in dense cities, the boundary between routine life and catastrophe is thin. When a system fails, any part of it, consequences multiply instantly. Someone online wrote something that stayed with me. Hong Kong is like its Hong Kongers. None of us truly end up where we plan to, but we endure. We are relentlessly tested, relentlessly striving, resilient through the night and into the dawn, seeing tomorrow when the rest of the world may only see black. That line captures Hong Kong's essence. But resilience should not be demanded again and again to compensate for structural negligence. This fire exposes a painful truth. Aging estates, rushed renovations, cost-cutting, and insufficient oversight create deadly vulnerabilities in high-density cities. And while the investigation continues, the message is already clear. This was not fate. This was not inevitable. This was a systemic failure, and the price was human lives. Right now, as I'm recording this, the fire is finally contained. Smoke still rises from parts of the estate. Firefighters are still checking apartments one by one. Families are still searching for missing loved ones. Hong Kong is grieving and demanding answers. And it should. My hope is simple. that this tragedy becomes a turning point, that the city re-examines how renovation, safety, and oversight work in dense public housing, and that no community ever faces something like this again. This was one of the hardest videos I've ever written, not because of the scale of the tragedy, but because this happened in a place I love, a place I lived, a place where my friends lived. If you want more responsible, in-depth analysis of urban issues, safety, and the realities of life in Asian megacities, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share your thoughts below. If you live in Tai Po, if you experience this fire, or if your building is undergoing renovation, your voice matters. Tell your story in the comments. Hong Kong deserves answers, and it deserves safety. This is not fate. This is not an accident. This is a failure we must learn from and never repeat. Stay safe wherever you are.